Back in the long, long ago, in the before times, I worked at Mattel on a great website called MattyCollector.com, which was used to sell action figures directly to the adult collector. And most of this was done through a subscription service, meaning fans could pre-commit to a line, and that's what let us do such an expansive number of characters. And while it started off as one subscription, after years went by, it certainly grew with add-on subscriptions and bonus figures and all sorts of ways to essentially get out as many figures as possible. Selling it online in this method allowed this. A lot of people question, well, if it's so popular online, why don't you bring it to retail? And despite this one single Walmart end cap, well, there might have been like 16 Walmart end caps, but very small, that slipped out. It wasn't sold at retail because retail didn't want it. It wasn't that we didn't try to sell it into retail. It was because, well, the previous He-Man line, while it was huge for collectors, and note that these collectible items weren't sold at retail, they were sold at conventions like Wizard World and San Diego Comic-Con. So while there was a very robust collector interest in Masters of the Universe, selling this line into kids, and I'm talking about the 2000X line, was, well, we wound up with things like this in a desperate plea to try to maximize tooling and get kids interested in rebuying characters. It just wasn't a huge hit. It was really the loincloth. People didn't like the furry loincloth. They thought He-Man looked weird. That was a lot of the response. So after MattyCollector went away, and, well, actually, after I left the company, and then MattyCollector went away, Mattel started up Mattel Vault, which was mainly used to sell excess property or stock that was still left over from MattyCollector, and then that retired, and then years later, fast forwarding to now, they have the third Mattel direct-to-consumer website, Mattel Creations. And they've started selling Masters of the Universe figures. The first one, or one of the first, was the Wondar, sort of, well, I don't want to call it a debacle, but heck, it didn't go too smooth. While you got an original figure, well, a redeco figure with redeco parts, I don't think he had any new tooling, but that's kind of the whole point of these things, is to try things out with low tooling scenarios. It's that way you're not investing in something that could go upside down. And fans had a hard time getting him. He sold out in a matter of minutes. And basically, if you wanted a Wondar, you were SOL because everything went haywire. And unless you were lightning quick, not to mention there was another figure that also went on sale. It was actually a twofer. So, there were even emotional support groups for people who could not get their Wondar. And that's understandable because, yeah, a figure being online for minutes, while we did encounter this problem in MattyCollector, it was eventually very quickly resolved. All right, so fast forwarding, or rather rewinding actually, that is the correct way to go through time, is PowerCon 2021 that offered a 4-pack of He-Man Masters of the Universe Horde members, and one particular Grizzlor had never been released before. Actually, two, Grizzlor and the Horde Troopers were premiering their sculpt in this pack, albeit it wasn't the traditional deco. So that was actually really clever. There was a different deco of Grizzlor that had been, he was both with this tape cassette and on single cards, although actually both. You could get the light skin and the dark skin one on sort of both. But no matter which version of Grizzlor you got, whether it came with a cassette tape or just single carded, yes, there was a dark skinned one and a lighter skinned one, like a brown skinned one. So the brown skinned one is the one most people had. So that's the one fans really want and are excited. It's now going to be a redeco in the Origins line. So with the darker skin and the black fur premiering at PowerCon. I mean, it really does make sense. That's the whole point of a convention item, is to do sort of inexpensive redecos. The fact that we were getting two sculpt premieres, the Horde Trooper in there in two different decos, and Grizzlor, basically communicated to all of us He-Man fans out there that, oh, we're going to get the standard classic deco eventually. It's great. They're just using this pack to help pay for the tooling. So, yes, we did get the classic version, well, the Origins version of the classic Horde Troop. I gotta stop using the word classic in these videos. It's gonna throw me off. Although, when I did finally get it in hand, and that's not actually my hand there, but I found a picture of someone holding one on Google. Yeah, I noticed he looked a lot more silver than I expected. I don't know, was that like a running change? Is there a white version, or one that's like more gray? Because he's supposed to be gray, not shiny. I don't know. That's not the point. I didn't buy this. So, I'm sure a lot of you did. All right, back to Grizzlor. So, as I was noting, with Mattel's third now attempt at a direct-to-consumer website, Mattel Creations, Grizzlor is on sale in his classic deco, the one most people had, the light tan fur or brown fur, light tan legs and arms, and it's as a made-to-order figure, which is really, 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 really important, because a made-to-order figure, what's another word for that? more or less a subscription, a pre-sale, whatever you want to call it. They're selling it to you in advance. And that is exactly how you get such an expansive number of characters for a toy line, is you commit either as a retailer or as an individual collector to funding the line. Now, you've probably seen that the MOTU toys have been bumpy at retail over the last, especially 6 months. We've seen them go on clearance. We've seen them go on sale. And recalling the difference between a sale and a clearance is a sale is funded by the manufacturer, i.e. Mattel, Hasbro. A clearance is funded by the retailer, i.e. Target, Walmart. And there's actually another clearance going on right now, hitting a lot of items that Target is probably trying to shuffle out in time for the holidays. So looking across at the other major retailer from Target is Walmart, and you can see that MOTU is now 6 inches, half a foot. It doesn't even have a full foot statement. So the fact that there's clearances, sales, and shrinkage in terms of retail space is a sign that kids may not be as into this property as everyone hoped. And that's an issue because anything sold at retail has shelf velocity. And that's basically, in essence, the number of units sold per store, per peg, per square foot. It's all a huge math equation. Every square foot of a big box retail store has requirements of how many units they need to sell. So getting any toy into the main toy aisle means that you have to do the bulk of your sales to kids, because that's who's shopping here. Despite the fact that we as collectors feel like we never see kids there and that we own this aisle, I can tell you, I've seen the data. Believe me, it's 80% kid. Now, there is that collector zone in the back, which doesn't have as high of a velocity requirement, which is why you see odds and ends, but it's really not the appropriate place for MOTU Origins either. So, yeah, if you can't sell it at the mass retail aisle or you can't bring it to the collector wall, well, there's the magic of the internet. But that really is magic, because this is absolutely the future of adult toy collecting. As prices go up, as kids move away from toys towards electronics, websites like HasLab that requires you to pre-buy the items that they want to make. And sometimes they go forward, sometimes they don't. It's up to the fans to support them. And that's no different than when retail is presented items in the standard toy model, where a retailer's presented a toy line, and if a retailer takes it, it winds up in the aisle. If they pass, it doesn't happen. You're just transferring sort of that power directly to the consumer. Another great example is Super 7 with their Ultimates. Again, it's all done with pre-sales, just like subscriptions. It's more or less, except you're sort of opting in or out of, a subscription of like 5 figures. Right? I think you have to buy them by wave, right, with Super 7. So, yeah, this pre-sale for Grizzlor is, in essence, a test to see if a subscription is possible. Can Origins grow as big as, say, Classics, or as Star Wars has been, or, WWE, other huge lines with tons of characters? There's definitely a lot of shared tooling, so it's a great line that has the logistics built into it to have a huge character selection. And by selling it online, Mattel is mitigating the risk of tooling, of going into production by doing a pre-buy. They can also prove whether or not there's an audience, and that's based on if they can hit the MOQ. So if Grizzlor soars way above the MOQ or just hits it or a little below, they'll know the size of the audience. Now, there is one hitch, though, in this whole thing, and that is having someone to actually run the portfolio, meaning all of the Mattel Creations. I don't know what's going on right now. I don't know if they have a dedicated brand manager. I hope they do. I know from my experience that to be a brand manager, you had to oversee a certain financial amount of money. Call it $100,000. I'm just making up a number. Well, MattyCollector didn't make anywhere close to the bare minimum required for a full-time brand manager, like on Batman or Hot Wheels or Barbie. So it kind of became my weekend job, and one that I did volunteer for and was happy to, for the experience and the opportunity. I mean, it was a great chance to work on He-Man toys, but it meant I was basically taking on a second job. So the question now is, is this a full-time position? Can it be made a full-time position so there can be a dedicated brand manager, and can they find someone?
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
And I'm hoping that with tests like this, that means that yes, well, when I was there, the brand manager for MattyCollector unfortunately wasn't able to be a full-time position, but maybe things have changed and now they are having, sort of like a junior level brand manager overseeing this. So The internet is where lines like this belong. It will maximize the amount of characters. So here's hoping this test works. Let me know what you think. Share this video with others who you think would be helped out by a video with these kind of interesting perspectives. I always like to provide as much as I can. Thanks for watching, thanks for sharing, and I'll see you in the next one.